It's a joke right now, but if it had to become the standard, it would become the standard.
It's not a joke. It's much lighter weight than OpenOffice is.
Yeah. It wouldn't stay lightweight very long. If that really happens and OpenOffice really starts to get surpassed and just stands still for too long, yeah, that would be what would happen. You know, it's a perfect example of that is, I don't know if you remember NVU.
No, I don't know what that is.
NVU was an HTML editor based on something actually developed by the Lenspire team, and you know all the packages over there have been completely stalled by, I forget the name of the company that bought that project, but basically they want to sell Linux like Windows, and so as a result they've stalled all those free projects and just killed them, and it took about a year. But all of a sudden, it was one of the better GUI HTML editors. Mono develops on all the other HTML editors in Linux, just because that project was stalled and they wouldn't give it back and they wouldn't let it go and they wouldn't set it free. It's like everybody just kind of moved on to the other projects and put all the effort that was going over here into all the projects over here. And over the course of the next year, they not only caught up but surpassed. It's one of those things. It's the logic behind people when they stall this. It's like, well, now they'll have to come through us. One of the joys of open source is if you try and force someone to come through you, you almost guarantee all roads will lead away from you. It's like it's almost guaranteed. It's just, they're gonna, all of a sudden, all the other projects are gonna surpass you, and what you've acquired and stalled is gonna look like shit. It just doesn't happen overnight. So if I don't know if that's really Oracle's plan there.
I don't know much about Oracle. As far as I know, they're not. I mean, I don't know. They use Linux, but they're not exactly very pro. I don't really see them, having a very...
The problem is like we're getting off topic and we need to cover this more next week, but like the last note I'll say on, tomorrow, the last note I'll say on this is the problem with open source is it's a different business model than the ones people are traditionally used to.
Yeah.
And if you try and turn an open source business model into a closed source business model, you will fail every time, because you will make an enemy of the open source community as a whole and the following that product has. You just can't do it. It's one of those things, you have to embrace the community, you have to embrace the openness, you have to embrace that business model. Don't get me wrong, you can make a shitload of money off of open source. Open source can be very, very profitable. Very profitable. But it's not a traditional business model. You have to get open source. You have to get the values of the open source community if you want to do that type of business. It's not... The typical business model is, I come in... It's... especially when it comes to software, is, well, you don't make any money unless you own it and control it. That's the typical business model when it comes to software. If you try and apply that business model to an open source project, you kill the project. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I see very few traditional companies who get that, and that really is one of the core business models for the 21st century. The idea that your end user is not a commodity, but a community.
Or both, rather.
Well, yeah, but it's a different mentality. It's a very different mentality. If you treat your It's one of those things that's hard to explain. It's not, but it's like it's very obvious the companies who get that and the ones that don't. And I don't know how to say this without sounding like a hippy dippy person. It's like, I definitely got the whole motif going. I just need like, man, it's like totally good, man. It's like, I don't know. Leo's been strangely quiet throughout this whole conversation.
Does Leo exist right now?
Yeah, it's like, you have anything to chime in on this matter?
I don't know. I like Open Office, and I'd be sad to see it go, but I don't know what exactly has been going on between Sun and Oracle, whatever. So I have no idea what else to add. Why doesn't the LGPL that's Open Office is registered under prevent people from just taking the code and forking it?
You know,
Seems to me like it wouldn't be possible to hold Open Office for ransom.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, if they really tried to do that, an overwhelming amount of development would take place in AbiWord, and it's not like they don't have the manuals.
or what's the other thing? G Office.
Okay, I need to call them back in a second. So we need to make time. I don't know. Oh no, that's the other thing. I mean, this does create an opportunity for Google to create an Office suite as part of their cloud services.
No, I mean there's a GNOME Office too. There's a lot of Office suites.
Yeah, it's like pretty much the de facto standard right now, though, is Open Office.
Yeah, I would rather Google not create any kind of Office for the desktop. I would rather Google stick to what it's good at, cloud stuff.
Oh. We think we'd all rather that, but what Google's going to actually do and what's going to happen are different things altogether.
If Google did exactly what we wanted to, the Nexus 1 would still be for sale.
Yeah, there'd be a Nexus 2 coming out this Christmas that's bigger, better, and more phone. It's like... Anyways, let's see if there's anything else here we haven't covered.
Is still... You know, it's still pretty much comparable to every phone today. You know.
Yeah, the things in which it's light in that it doesn't have as like it could have 8 or 16 gig internal storage.
Right.
And it could have a little bit better camera. It could have 4G support. But here would have been my wish list for the Nexus 2. My wish list for the Nexus 2 would have been better internal storage. It would have been an improvement in the battery technology, because there's been improvements since that came out.
A lot of, actually, yeah.
Yeah, and it would have been that they embraced they have one Nexus 1 instead of 2, and that they have a quad band phone, so that it works on both T-Mobile and AT&T and both sets of 3G antennas, so I have one unlocked phone I take to whatever carrier happens to suit my fancy. And then something I would have liked to see in the Nexus 3, because that would have been enough time for Moore's Law to apply, that it would then be cost effective to have both CDMA and GSM antennas in the phone at the same price. It's like I had plans for the Nexus 1, and I was wanting to see if Google was going to follow them, and instead they gave up.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool things about the Nexus 1. Anyway, I don't know.
It might not be out yet.
Maybe they'll make another phone for developers. They just won't release it to the public.
No. That's the thing. For it to do its job, it's got to be accessible to the public.
Who knows? For